What's up YouTube, Team Deception here with a deck profile for you guys. Recently I picked up 3 of the Fire King structure deck, so I wanted to build a deck for, to use some of the new fire stuff, and the first thing I went to was the Hazy Flames. So we're going to do a deck profile of this today, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So starting off the monsters, we have 3 Hazy Flame Puritan. I believe that's how it's pronounced. While this is on the field, you can send a fire monster in your hand to the graveyard, as well as this from your field to the graveyard, and summon any 2 Hazy Flames from your deck to the field. So you can bring out another one of this, because it doesn't say you can't bring out another one. You can also bring out Sphinx, Cerberus, Hippogriff, any of the Hazy Flames. This is your main card for making an instant rank 6 in the deck, just because it's more reliable than Sphinx. But at the same time, it allows you to make bigger plays as well. Next up, we have 3 Sphinx. Sphinx's effect, whenever it's on the field, you can declare a card type, monster, spell, or trap, and send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. If the card that you just sent from the top deck or the top of your deck to the graveyard is the declared type that you had called, you can summon any fire monster from your hand or your graveyard. So, like I said with Puritan, however you want to fucking pronounce it, Puritan is more reliable than Sphinx, but Sphinx also allows you to bring out other things other than Hazy Flames, which makes her equally as good. You can bring out Garunix, you can bring out any of the Hazy Flames, any fire monster, which is really good. Next up, we have 3 Cerberus. This recently became a very popular card for the whole TG stun thing. It's basically a floater. You summon it, and it's like, okay, like if you don't have any way of putting this out without using its effect, you can summon it with its effect, and then it becomes 1000 attack. But whenever it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you add any Hazy card from your deck to your hand. You can add another one of these. You can add any of the Hazy Flame monsters. You can also add Hazy Pillar, which all you really want to have in your hand. Otherwise, it's a 2k beat stick that you can bring back off of Rekindling. So it's great for baiting out things that destroy and shit as well. Next up, we have 3 Hazy Flame Hippogriffs. This was an exclusive card in the structure deck. Why it was that, I have no idea, but it's kind of annoying that it was. But it's also a rekindling target, and it's also 2100. So like if you wanted to crash into I guess what the hell is it called, a Djinn warp that's under 10 key and they have nothing else to power it up or whatever, you can crash into it. It's 2100, so it gets over to like Thunder King and all that other shit as well. So it's a really good card. It's really only useful for the fact that it's 2100 and that you can bring it back off of Rekindling, as well as the next card, which is Triple Fire Dog. Believe it or not, idiots on Pojo just go, okay, well, why are you using Fire Dog? There's like whatever. I mean, I've seen people ask why this card's played, because they don't realize you can bring out Hippogriff, you can bring out Cerberus, you can bring out fucking the next card, and there's a card coming up after that as well that you can bring out as well. It just allows you to make some pretty disgusting plays, in my opinion. It's kind of like using fucking, Gaia in this deck, which, believe it or not, I've actually considered. Next up, we have 3 Barongs. Like I said, I did pick up the Fire King stuff. When this is destroyed by a card effect, you can search out a Fire King, just any Fire King card from the deck to your hand except for another Barong. And when a Fire King monster you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, except during damage step, you can special summon it from your hand. So if you have one on the field that gets destroyed and you have another one in your hand, you can special summon the one in your hand, because it doesn't matter if if it doesn't have anything saying that if you have, like, if it's another Fire King that gets destroyed, then, kind of like how Keyzone is, where it's limited, where if you have a Keyzone on the field, you can't drop another one because you have a Keyzone now. If that makes sense to anyone. Next up, we have 2 Garunix. 1's too little, 3 is way too many. 2 Garunix is perfect. It's actually pretty hilarious if you end up destroying one and putting the other one out and letting the other one destroy the other one, because then you have an infinite loop of Garunix coming back on the standby phases, and it just blows up everything and clears the field, which in my opinion is just really good. The only problem with it is you have to worry about deprisons and stuff, but it's the same kind of thing as Grapha. Last monster, and it's kind of a personal tech of mine, level 4 Sprite. I do run Rekindlings in this deck, so I mean, I love the idea of being able to make some easy level 8 synchros, not to mention, like, I mean, you can bring it off of Fire Dog, so you can make 6. It's really kind of just there to make something that's not a freaking exceed if I decide I need to. So yeah, Onto the spells, we have 3 onslaughts. This deck is very dependent on this card. If you can't get to your Hazy Pillar and you open up a bunch of Hazy Flame monsters, you're really sitting on no way of summoning them. This is in a lot of ways a free way of tribute summoning, I guess, if you really wanted to, but you can also bring out Garunix, you can bring out Barong, and let them both, like, if you, it doesn't matter which one you bring out, as long as you can just let them die and they'll trigger their effects during the next standby phase, which is really good. Like, if you want to, you can summon Garunix off this and not even attack and just let it die during the end phase. Unless they do something to get rid of it during their next standby phase, all their monsters are going to get blown up, meaning you didn't have to worry about the deep prison or whatever. It just brought itself back, it blew everything to smithereens. The only downside to that is you really don't get to do any damage, but that's the only downside to Garunix being brought out and just being abused that way. It can also bring out Cerberus and Sphinx because they're both Beast and Beast Warrior, which is really good, but the effect of the monster brought out by Onslaught is negated. So, I mean, but Cerberus actually activates in the graveyard, so it really doesn't matter. Next up we have 3 Circle of the Fire Kings. Excellent card for recycle in this deck, like for real. This is one of the most amazing cards in this deck. You can use this on a Cerberus and it'll still get its effect to search out a Hazy card. The reason for that is because the destruction and the special summon off this card's effect is simultaneous, so you'll be able to just search out any Hazy Flame you want. The other thing that's really good about this is you can recycle your Puritan from your graveyard. You can also recycle Sphinx, you can recycle like a dead fucking Garunix or whatever. Like if you wanted to put it onto the field to intercept a Mirror Force or whatever, go for it. It's a really, really, really good card in this deck. Like if you're not playing it, I really recommend you do. Next up, we have kind of a staple for this deck. It's the Hazy Pillar. It allows you to summon your Hazy monsters with one less tribute, but they're all level 6, so it's pretty much no tribute. And the not so important effect, but actually very useful effect, is you can, once per turn, you can attach 1 Hazy Flame monster in your hand or on your side of the field to an Xyz monster you control. This doesn't have to be a level 6 Xyz or a rank 6 Xyz. It can be any Xyz. Like if you somehow have a Zen mains on the field, you can put a Hazy monster under it with this card, which is just stupid. Not that many people would do that anyways. Next up we have 3 Rekindlings, kind of a staple in this deck as well. You have Hippogriff, you have Fire Dog, you have Barong, you have level 4 Sprite, you have Cerberus. You have a lot of targets in this deck for this card. You better be running 3, just saying. Next up we have, for the end of the spells, we have the big 3, kind of a must in pretty much every deck. Don't really need to explain that. Next up we have our traps. I only play 4. First up is Double Torrential, excellent for triggering the Barong and the Garunix, not to mention, like, if you're doing something like with Cerberus, you can just search out a card or whatever. Like, you have a lot of free floating shit whenever it comes to Torrential and cards that want to be destroyed by any means necessary. And then the last thing we have is to call. Bringing Garunix back from the graveyard when this is targeted by an MST is really fucking funny, because then you just blow everything up during the next standby phase with Garunix. So that's the deck. Like I said, I don't have an extra deck put together for this right now because some of the stuff's not out and some of it's just out of my reach at the moment because it's in the dual terminal or whatever, like Constellar Ptolemy M7, which in my opinion is one of the most amazing cards for this deck, because I heard putting fucking Proteon and all that other shit back in your hand just to resummon it next turn is really fucking good. But yeah, if you want me to give you a sample of an extra deck, I can leave you one down in the description. Like, just ask. If multiple people ask me for an extra deck or whatever, I can give you one. But until then, like, I mean, I really don't have one 100% prepared at the moment, and not one that I can prepare in real life. So yeah, if you enjoyed the deck profile or have any suggestions for the deck, leave a comment below, let me know. If you haven't already, click an ad because that's very useful for me. And again, if you haven't, rate, comment, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace, guys.